Drum teacher. Do you really need one? Can you learn how to play this instrument on your own, or is it more beneficial to get someone to help you in your musical journey? Let's discuss that right now. Hello drummers, and welcome to Tim Conley Drums. Today is just going to be a discussion video, but it's something that is very, very important and very near and dear to my heart. And that is, do we need a drum teacher? Do musicians in general need a teacher, a guitar teacher, a piano teacher, etc., etc.? Or can we just learn this instrument through trial and error and figuring it out on our own? This is a very highly contested topic. Now, I'm going to be honest. My opinion is slightly biased because I am a drum teacher, but I will tell you this. I do know there's lots of famous drummers that never really took any lessons at all. Buddy Rich being one. The greatest drummer of all time. Did he have an actual teacher and someone that showed him how to play all those crazy things that he played? No, he just was able to play. Now, Buddy was gifted though. Buddy was brought onto this earth to play drums. So guys like Buddy Rich, Dennis Chambers, did not have teachers, but they went on to become very, very famous and influential drummers. Charlie Watts, Ringo Starr, they didn't take any lessons either. I mean, these are very famous musicians that did not take any lessons. They just were born to play, and they could play at amazingly high levels. Now, on the flip side, that's rare. To be able to play, from the age of 3 and you're amazing, like a prodigy, is very, very rare. Most of us have to be shown what to play. We can watch drummers and try to duplicate what they do. And that's what all of us do, whether you take lessons or not. We're always watching other drummers and stealing their licks, trying to figure out what they're doing, what's that stick trick they did, what was that groove, etc., etc. But in my opinion, it really does make it easier if you have someone to teach you how to read music, to teach you how to hold the sticks properly and get a bounce, to teach you how to use your fingers, and to teach you all the various techniques that are going to make you better on the instrument. The Moeller technique, the free stroke, the exercise for the free stroke, the Buddy Rich push-pull, the Tony Williams ride cymbal pattern, which I apply to other parts of the drum kit, not just the ride cymbal. All these things, you can attempt to figure them out nowadays by using YouTube, various video courses, Drumeo, etc., etc. You can do that. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, because even drummers that have teachers should be looking at these videos and things. But the question boils down to, do you really need a teacher? In my opinion, the answer is yes. And you knew I was going to say that. I know you knew that I was going to say that. Now, having said that, and you knew that I was going to say that, that's no surprise. Let's look at some of the pros and cons of having a teacher. So let's look at the pros of having a teacher. First of all, number one, you've got someone that's going to be better than you. Almost always, your drum teacher is a much better drummer than you. So right off the bat, just watching him play, you're going to get better. Now, I have to confess, I've had lots of really great drum teachers. I've actually studied with some of the greatest drummers on the planet. Now, just because you're a great drummer doesn't necessarily mean you're a great teacher. Sometimes you have musicians that are amazing teachers. Maybe they're not the greatest players. Then you have times where you have amazing drummers, they're not the greatest teachers. If you can find someone that has the blend, I call it the blend. The blend is amazing drummer, amazing teacher. Usually the best teachers are teachers that have figured out how to communicate properly with their students, how to get the information across. In my years of teaching, one thing that I learned is teaching actually made me a better drummer because I have to play everything really slowly. There's a tendency, I call it teenage boy syndrome, where people who are learning how to play the drums, whether it be taking lessons or on their own, they want to go from playing a groove or a lick at 0 right up to 100. So they want to go from barely being able to play it to being able to play it really fast. The problem is that in that 1 to 99 portion of learning a groove or a lick, they've skipped out on the technical aspects of being able to execute that. So how does Danny Carey play some of those licks that he plays so well? Well, one of the reasons is he's a highly educated musician. Secondly, he practiced them at slow tempos and built up the speeds. So, number one con, you've got someone that's better than you. Number two, you're going to have someone that's going to be able to show you things that you don't know how to play. Plain and simple. Every drum teacher I ever had taught me grooves that I did not know, taught me phrasings that I did not know, licks that I did not know how to play. I learned a ton from the teachers that I had. So being able to learn from them stuff that you don't know how to play, very important. Number three, you're going to listen to their stories. You're going to hear experiences. You're going to hear about being on the road. You're going to hear about being in the studio. You're going to hear about failure. You're going to hear about success. Those stories are amazing. My students always tell me that they enjoy my stories. I only ever had one student in years of teaching, 40 years of teaching drums, one student said they did not like my stories. Most times, so I'm going to say 99.99% of the time, people enjoy to hear the stories, the trial and tribulations of being a drummer, being a musician, being on the road, being in the studio, gigging, what happens at live gigs, failures at live gigs, broken drumsticks, dropped drumsticks, how I recovered from dropping a drumstick. So these stories are priceless. Dom Famularo told me so many fantastic stories about his travels, about being with Buddy Rich, about his time with Joe Morello, his time with some other great teachers, all the times that he spent with some of the world's greatest drummers. He's got some absolutely amazing stories. And I can remember being like a little kid, like, please tell me more, Dom, please tell me more. So you're not going to get that if you don't have a teacher. This guy's way more experienced than you. And you want to absorb those stories and take them in and really, really enjoy them. The number 3 pro for taking drum lessons is you're going to get into a routine, a practice routine. Most drum teachers set their students up with goals. They set them up with almost like a program. So for example, what I often do is a student says to me they want to get faster in their singles, their doubles, their paradiddles, etc., etc. Okay, so I set them up on a 6-week plan to get them to go from 80 beats per minute, let's say, up to 120 beats per minute. So I set them realistic goals, not unrealistic. You can't say to someone that's a relative beginner on the drums, oh, you're going to be playing at 200 beats per minute in 6 weeks. It doesn't progress that quickly usually. So you want to get them to get realistic goals set, and then they can go through your 6-week plan to develop, and then at the end, when they are playing smoothly and cleanly at 120 BPM, success! Success for the student, success for you as a teacher. So you cannot beat that as a student of the instrument. When you go to a good teacher, they're going to set you up with plans. Another thing, number 4, on our list, that's fantastic about having a drum teacher is you're going to have someone there that's got your back. He's going to motivate you. This drum teacher is going to want you to succeed. They're going to coach you and guide you. And, when you're struggling with something, they're the person there that is going to help you. So immediately you've got personal interaction with somebody that wants you to succeed, and they're there to coach and guide you. One of the problems with the internet is there's no feedback. Yeah, you watch Dennis Chambers play these crazy fast licks and whatever, and maybe there's a lesson breakdown. But when you go to do it and you go to play it and you execute it and you think you're sounding awesome and it turns out it's not as awesome as you think, there's no one there to give you feedback and say, listen, it's a little bit sloppy, you need to slow it down, break down that linear fill, make sure each drum's got its spot, whatever the coaching that you need to do as a drum teacher. So when you're on the internet, you get zero feedback from the instructor because there's no actual interaction. You cannot beat one-on-one interaction with a drum teacher because whatever you're doing wrong, he's going to point it out immediately. Also, you can ask questions. You cannot ask a video questions. If it was live, maybe, but there's 100 other people on there. Is your question going to be answered? Plus, sometimes it's difficult in a live interacting scenario when you're dealing with lots and lots of people to actually get your question answered to your satisfaction. So that's another part of it. So live in-person drum lessons, you cannot replace that. Okay, number 5 pro on our growing list of why you need a drum teacher, or not really why you need a drum teacher, because this video is an argument of, do you need a drum teacher? Do you not need a drum teacher? On the side of do you need a drum teacher, or sorry, on the side of why you need a drum teacher, I'm coming up with some of these points, okay? Number 5, which is a very critical thing about having a drum teacher, is you have someone that you set up a weekly routine with and you can continuously work through things. So let's say you're trying to learn how to do a paradiddle groove. What I always do is I show them the paradiddle groove, I break it down, let's say we're playing it as 16th notes, I get them to count it, 1 eanda, 2 eanda, show them the sticking, how the sticking looks, whether it be in a fill or whether it be in the actual groove, and you're breaking it all down and doing it slowly. Then they come back for their second lesson on this same topic. You give them an inverted paradiddle, so now we change the sticking. Week 3, maybe we go to an outward paradiddle, or we do a paradiddle diddle groove, etc., etc. So you can build on your lessons as a teacher, and the student then builds on their playing vocabulary because of what you're showing them on a weekly basis. One thing that I learned as a drum teacher is do not I know you get excited. I get excited too because I love teaching. But when you give the student too much to absorb, it overwhelms them, whether they're kids or adults. If they're beginner and intermediate drummers, it's really easy to overwhelm them. You can even overwhelm adult students when you get into heavy-duty polyrhythmic and metric modulation type stuff. So, I mean, what I prefer to do is take 1 or 2, maybe 3 ideas at the most, and focus on that and develop them week to week. So I can go all day about the reasons why you should have a drum teacher or why you need a drum teacher. But I'm just going to say one more thing, which is very important. And that is that you develop a relationship with your drum teacher in the sense that I really care about my students and I care about their physical well-being, I care about their mental well-being, and my goal is to inspire, uplift, motivate, drive. Yes, I'm teaching them all kinds of things, but get excited with your student about what you're learning. When they learn something, let them know. That's freaking awesome. And show them that enthusiasm. My students always tell me that I'm very enthusiastic and that they can tell that I care about them, that I care about them wanting to know how to play this amazing instrument. And they also know that I love to play this instrument. That's another thing. Some of the teachers that I've had, you could really feel that love, that they really love what they do. And you want to be able to show that to your students. So from a teacher perspective, get excited about what you're teaching and what you're playing. Don't be that teacher that, oh no, I gotta teach drums today. Are you kidding me? You could be working in a frickin' factory, turning nuts all day at a Honda plant. No, you're teaching drums. You're having fun. I always tell my kids, we're not in math class. Even though drums is related to math, let's be honest, but we're not bored in math class with the Bueller, anybody, Bueller. We're not in that boring situation. This is exciting. This is fun. You're playing one of the most amazing instruments on the planet. Get excited about it. Get excited about it from a teacher's perspective, and hopefully you motivate your students to be equally excited. Okay, now we turn to the cons, because we got to look, any argument has two sides, okay? Now I'm going to be totally honest with you. For you players that are self-taught and want to continue to be self-taught, you do have to ask yourself something, and that is, am I a complete beginner, or am I someone that's a bit gifted, natural? Are you the next Buddy Rich? Are you the next Ringo Starr? You know, so if you are an absolute beginner, a complete newbie, and you know nothing, you're going to be sitting behind this drum kit, and you might as well be sitting in the cockpit of an airplane, because you're not going to have a clue what's going on. Everything is foreign. Yeah, you know you hit things, but you don't have no clue how to hit them. So a teacher is definitely going to help you. Now, if you're a guy that can go behind a drum kit, like my son, who has actually only taken maybe 2 lessons from me, but he's a natural. He can just play. He's a gifted musician. He plays piano, plays trumpet, plays French horn, and he plays the drums. Now, I've only shown him a few things. He just is one of those people that prefers to learn on his own, but he can play. I hear him on my drums, and I'm just like, holy geez, he's pretty good. Now, obviously, his skills are not advancing because he's not learning a lot of new things, but he's playing and he's having fun. So that is one thing I will say. If you don't want to take lessons and you're playing drums, at least you're having fun and doing something that you enjoy regardless of having a teacher or not. But if you're gifted, is that gift only going to take you so far? These are things you got to ask yourself. How far is the gift going to take me? Is there a point where I reach a wall? I've reached walls myself. Even you know, when I took breaks from teachers, I reached a wall where I felt like I was playing the same fills all the time, doing the same grooves, blah, blah, blah. I want to learn some new things. I want to learn how to play a completely different style of music. Sought out a teacher, upped my game. And I don't consider myself to be a gifted player, to be totally honest. I was a player that was never stopped pursuing. That's the kind of player I was. I was always after information. I can remember my drum teachers telling me that I would drain them. I would tire them out because I sought the information about this instrument so passionately that I wore them down. Now, if you're one of those people, you're going to thrive in a teaching environment. You're going to thrive because you're always seeking out knowledge. Now, if you're a guy that's complacent, happy with what level that you're at, and you've reached a wall but you don't care, and you're playing in a local band and they're happy with what you do, maybe you don't need a teacher. Then it's fine. So in the end, it's up to you whether or not a teacher is going to be for you or not. I do recommend beginners at least seek out lessons, but if you're a gifted player and you've been playing for quite some time and you feel that you are good with what you do and you can learn from Drumeo, Dave Weckel's sites, and any other YouTube videos, for example, you could even plant yourself down and binge watch my channel. I've got tons and tons of lessons on my channel for drummers out there that are maybe looking for lessons but don't have a teacher, or you're one of those gifted players I was talking about that's looking to expand your technique. Check out my videos. I've got tons on there. If you're not interested in getting a teacher, you can turn to the whole online thing and YouTube, especially my channel. Not all of us can do that. Like I said, for myself, I never considered myself a gifted player. I was always a player that had to work really hard. I became a good and professional level player, but it was through hard work. I used to practice my ass off when I was in music school. And still to this day, I practice. Now, I don't have time now anymore to practice for, 4, 5, 6 hours a day. But back in the day, in the 80s and 90s and somewhat into the 2000s, I would practice for hours and hours every day. At my peak, I think I was practicing about 8 or 9 hours a day in music school. So that's a lot of practicing. But I had a lot of material I had to cover because of all my lessons and classes that I was taking. It was a whole different thing. Plus, I was training to become a pro. So if you're not training to be a pro, you just want to have fun on the drums, you can still take lessons, or you can just do the thing where you don't take lessons, but you try and learn off of videos. You're only going to get so far with those videos, but it is an option for you gifted type players. I do remember one of my students telling me he's quitting because he wants to be able to develop his own complete ideas without somebody interfering with those ideas. He wants to develop his own ideas. Now, I have heard about musicians who want no influence from other musicians in their music, and they hide themselves away and they just do their own music. They present the music to the listener, but they don't want influences from outside musicians that are going to negatively, in their opinion, affect what they do on their instrument. Now, I understand that, but I'm not really a big fan of that, because I firmly believe the opposite, that the instruction that you're getting, how to hold the sticks, how to get the bounce off the hi-hat, how to move around the drums, etc., is only going to help you. How to set up the drums properly, how to sit and be ergonomic at your kit. Don't slouch, sit up straight. Bounce the cymbals bounce the sticks off the cymbals when you're playing. All these things are only going to benefit you. If you're never ever showing, if you're never ever shown things like this, you're going to develop a lot of bad habits. And one thing that I've noticed doing this a long time, when I've taught students that have been playing drums for a long time with no instruction, there's a process. The process is I got to tear down all those years of bad habits to be able to put in and replace bad habits with good habits. Good habits that are going to make you a much, much better drummer. So I know there's going to be self-taught drummers out there that are going to think, that's all baloney. Well, I have to disagree with you. I think that I put across a lot of really, really good points here. Now, there are people out there that are insecure. And if you're one of those people that don't want lessons because you don't want to be criticized, you don't want someone, in your opinion, beating you down, even though that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to uplift you and not beat you down. If you have a difficult time being criticized, you have to get over these things, because the criticism that I give my students is uplifting and positive. It's not, oh man, you might as well just quit, you suck. That's not what we do. So if you're a drummer out there that's on the fence about taking lessons because you're a little bit insecure and worried about getting beaten down and whatnot, go and find a teacher that's not like that. There are teachers that are mean and cruel to their students. I know that, because I have had teachers that were hard on me. Some teachers were hard on me, but in the end, I benefited from it. So don't completely eliminate those harsh teachers. Some of them can be good. Joe Morello was a very harsh teacher, very harsh, but he's a brilliant player and a brilliant teacher. And even though he's harsh on his students, the students gain from his incredible wealth of knowledge. On the flip side, the greatest teacher I ever had was Dom Famulero, who I still take lessons with. I haven't had a lesson with Dom for quite some time, I have to admit, because he's been sick. He is recovering from pancreatic cancer. Super good news about Dom though, he is cancer free. After many radiation and chemo treatments, he is cancer free. He's putting weight back on, and he says he's going to be at NAMM in April. So I'm really excited. I'm going to go and visit him. I'm just going to go and visit him and say hi and spend some time together and just enjoy our company. And then when he's really healthy again, we'll get back to some lessons, because I love having lessons with Dom. So, yes, I leaned heavily on the side of taking drum lessons. I am biased. I've taken a ton of lessons myself. Let me give you the quick history. I started playing drums at 7. I started taking lessons at 10. I did have breaks in those lessons. I remember I took lessons with a teacher from 10 to 14, but then he went off on tour with his band, and his band had some success, a Canadian band, and they were called the Spoons, and they took off, and I unfortunately never saw them again. So there was about a 6-month break there. Then I got another drum teacher, didn't work out with them so much. There was another break for a year and a half. Got another drum teacher, you know, so there were times where I didn't have teachers. But for the most part, throughout my 20s, 30s, and 40s, I've always had a drum teacher. And now into my late 50s, almost 60, I still have teachers. I still seek out lessons. Now, I don't do a weekly lesson. Sometimes I only do 1 or 2 lessons a year. But some of those teachers that I've had, Steve Smith, Dave Weckel, Dom Famularo. I go to camps. I take lessons by going to drum camps. I've taught at tons of drum camps, and I've been students. I've been a student at lots of drum camps. The other thing I do is master classes. I've been to Todd Zuckerman's master class, Steve Smith's master class, Vinny Colaiuta's master class. I mean, these are unbelievable players, and you can't help but learn from them. Okay, drummers, we have come to the end. In conclusion, you can tell by my video I'm all for the lessons. I really don't see any benefit to completely just playing on your own and not taking any lessons at all. And I'm not just saying that because I'm trying to promote drum teachers because I'm a drum teacher. I sincerely believe that. I've gained so much incredible knowledge. I wouldn't be where I am today without the teachers that I had over the years. You know, Paul DeLong, Kevin Dempsey, Ernie Porthouse, Chuck Silverman. I mean, Dom Famularo. These guys are all amazing drummers and amazing teachers, and I learned so much from them. Memo Acevedo. I would not know how to play Afro-Cuban if it wasn't for Memo Acevedo. What an amazing human being and teacher, you know? So if you're a drummer that's on the fence about lessons, I encourage you to seek out a teacher. The other thing that I didn't discuss is online lessons. I do teach a lot of online lessons. That, if you can't make in person, online is kind of in the middle. You've got no lessons at all. You've got online lessons and in-person lessons. The online lessons you're still going to gain from, you're still going to get better, but in-person is ideal. But you're still going to do well. I have lots of students that I exclusively and only teach online, and they have gained and benefited from those online lessons. Now, there is one other thing that I mentioned briefly earlier, and that is not necessarily taking lessons where you're interacting, but watching videos, taking courses. You sign up for Dave Weckel's educational course, Drummeo's educational courses. Now, that's better than nothing. You're definitely going to learn something, but it's not ideal because of the interactive thing that I was talking about. You can't ask questions necessarily, you know? So questions in real time, meaning you ask the question, you immediately get the answer, and you get a demonstration of how to play whatever your question is, or how to do whatever your question is properly on this kit, okay? So I don't really see any pros to not taking lessons. Now, maybe I'm missing something. There's going to be guys out there that have never taken a lesson in their life. And like I said, Ringo never took any lessons, played in the greatest band of all time. So am I missing out on something? I don't know. If you have a comment and you want to say something about never taking a lesson in your life, but you've been able to be successful, like I said, lots of drummers have that. I don't think Ian Pace ever learned how to read music or took any lessons from Deep Purple. He's one of my favorite drummers, you know? So, you know, maybe education isn't the be-all, end-all. However, my opinion in this particular video is education, very, very important. Put some comments down, subscribe to my channel, like this video. Please check out my Patreon, buy me a cup of coffee, and or thanks. Any kind of a donation to me is much, much appreciated. You will definitely get a shout out. Please check out my Patreon because there's so many amazing things that I'm excited to give away. You know, you sign up for a monthly amount, and I'm excited to starting off with just giving you a shout out on my channel all the way up to some online lessons. I'm offering lessons on my Patreon. So there we go. If you're on the fence, sign up for my Patreon and get yourself some lessons. Thank you very much for joining me here today in this discussion. I look forward to reading the comments. As always, keep drumming. See ya.